Normandy, July 1944. Morning fog still clings to the hedgerows, drifting like pale smoke across the broken fields. Dew sits on the grass, untouched, quiet, until the first metallic echo cuts through the silence. A German Panther idles behind a line of orchard trees, its engine growling, its crew confident, almost casual. They had seen Shermans before. Light armor, soft silhouettes, guns that bounced harmlessly off their glacis plates. Inside the turret, the German gunner smirks as he wipes dust from the sight. Another American column, he mutters. They had knocked out dozens. They expected more of the same. Then movement flickers through the mist. A Sherman emerges, but something is different. A longer barrel, a sharper profile. Its turret tracks fast, smooth, precise. The German crew hesitates, just for a heartbeat, unsure of what they are seeing. A flash erupts from the American barrel. The German commander shouts, too late. The 76mm shell strikes with a force none of them imagined. The confidence that once filled the orchard collapses in an instant. Because on this morning, the Americans have not brought the old Sherman. They have brought the answer the Germans never expected. Before the summer of 1944, the reputation of American armor had already taken shape in the minds of German crews. Their early encounters, especially in North Africa, left a clear impression. The U.S. favored speed, reliability, and mass production over heavy armor or thick guns. The first Shermans that reached Tunisia carried the short-barreled 75mm. Against Panzer IIIs and early Panzer IVs, it performed adequately, sometimes impressively. But to German tankers who later faced Panthers and Tigers, those earlier fights felt like a different war entirely. By 1943, German intelligence reports described the Sherman as lightly armored, lightly gunned, and vulnerable at distance. Crews repeated this belief until it hardened into certainty. Whenever a column of Shermans appeared, most German gunners already knew where their shots would land: turret front, hull side, transmission housing. Meanwhile, American tankers were sending back reports of their own. Complaints, frustrations, and battlefield lessons poured through command channels. They could flank German tanks, they could overwhelm them with numbers, but they could rarely meet them frontally, and that imbalance was costing lives. These two perspectives, German confidence and American concern, were building toward the same inevitable conclusion. The U.S. needed a gun capable of piercing the new generation of German armor. Engineers had been experimenting with such a weapon long before D-Day was planned, but now the urgency was unmistakable. Every month of fighting in Italy, every clash with Panthers in limited terrain made the gap impossible to ignore. By early 1944, the message was clear on both sides of the Atlantic. The next chapter of armored warfare would demand something stronger than the Sherman the Germans thought they knew. The solution the U.S. Army sought had already taken shape in test grounds months before it reached Europe. Engineers at Aberdeen Proving Ground had been refining a long-barreled weapon, what would become the 76mm M1 gun, designed specifically to counter the thicker, sloped armor the Germans were now fielding. Unlike the older 75mm, this weapon offered higher velocity, better penetration, and the ability to engage at ranges where Panthers excelled. Still, the upgrade wasn't just a matter of mounting a bigger cannon. The new gun required a redesigned turret, a shift in ammunition storage, and manufacturing lines that could adapt quickly. In the fast-moving American industrial system, these changes happened with remarkable speed. By late 1943, the first 76mm Shermans were rolling off production lines, quietly, efficiently, almost anonymously. Meanwhile, intelligence flooding into Allied headquarters painted a sobering picture. The Panther's 75mm KWK-42 gun outranged nearly everything the Allies had. In Italy, U.S. tank battalions learned this the hard way, losing vehicles before they ever saw the enemy. Reports from commanders like Mark Clark and Omar Bradley repeatedly emphasized the need for better firepower before any major continental assault. D-Day only increased the urgency. By June 1944, the Allies knew France would present tighter terrain, stiffer resistance, and heavier armor than North Africa ever had. Panthers and Tigers were expected to appear in large numbers, and they did. So the Americans prepared their answer. Shipments of the upgraded Shermans began moving from depots in England toward the staging grounds for the next push. Tank crews heard rumors of the new gun. German crews, still confident, did not. What neither side fully realized yet was how quickly the coming clashes would challenge old assumptions. The human angle, American tankers waiting for an answer. For American crews, the arrival of the 76mm Sherman was not just a technical upgrade, it was a lifeline. Many had fought through Italy and Normandy with the older 75mm, learning the limits of their weapon the hard way. They admired the Sherman's reliability, its turret speed, and how it could keep moving when German machines broke down. But they also knew the brutal truth. Facing a Panther head-on meant one thing: find cover fast or be destroyed. When rumors spread about the longer-barreled Sherman arriving at last, hope mixed with impatience. Crews wanted to believe their firepower would finally match the courage they were already giving. The enemy angle, German confidence, hardened by early impressions. German crews approached battle with a different mindset. From Kursk to Italy, they had seen Shermans burn under the fire of Panthers, Tigers, and even Pak guns. Training manuals emphasized the weaknesses of U.S. armor, and battlefield experience confirmed them. To German tankers, the Sherman was a known quantity, fast but fragile, numerous but predictable. This confidence bordered on complacency, reinforced by each engagement where the 75mm Sherman could not penetrate their front armor. The idea that the Americans could suddenly alter this balance seemed unlikely, even unthinkable. The tactical angle, why the 76mm changed the conversation. The new gun offered more than penetration power. It gave American tank units tactical flexibility they lacked. Instead of relying on flanking maneuvers or artillery support to deal with Panthers, American crews could now engage at more comparable ranges. This created new options for ambushes, counterattacks, and defensive stands. It also disrupted German expectations, forcing them to rethink positions, distance, and timing whenever they faced American armor. These perspectives, human hope, German certainty, and tactical evolution were about to converge on the same battlefield.
The technological angle, ammunition, optics, and the new turret. The 76mm M1 gun was more than a longer tube on an old frame. Its true value came from the ammunition it fired. The standard APC round already outperformed the older 75mm, but the introduction of HVAP, a tungsten-cored high-velocity projectile, gave U.S. crews a weapon capable of piercing Panther armor at realistic battle ranges. Though supplies were limited, even a few rounds per tank shifted battlefield confidence. On top of this, the new turret offered better internal layout and faster traverse, allowing American gunners to swing, aim, and fire before German crews finished lining up their shots. Combined with dependable radios and a stable firing platform, the upgrades turned the Sherman into a far more precise and responsive weapon system than the Germans expected. The industrial angle, American production at war speed. Behind every upgraded tank stood the vast weight of American industry. Factories retooled within weeks, assembly lines adapted, and thousands of components were shipped across the Atlantic in an unbroken stream. The United States didn't just design a better gun, it produced it on a scale Germany could never match. This meant that once the 76mm version proved its value, entire battalions could be equipped in a matter of months. German crews facing breakdowns, shortages, and delayed replacements found themselves increasingly outpaced, not just on the battlefield, but in the staggering logistics behind it. The battlefield angle, the terrain that neutralized German advantages. In the hedgerows of Normandy, the mountains of Italy, and the villages of eastern France, terrain often neutralized long-range German superiority. Engagements became closer, faster, more chaotic, favoring tanks that could turn quickly, fire rapidly, and communicate effectively. The 76mm Sherman thrived in these environments where accuracy and reaction time mattered more than sheer armor thickness. German expectations of long-range dominance collided with the reality of terrain that rewarded flexibility. All these angles formed the hidden foundation for the moment that was coming next. The breakthrough came in the summer fighting beyond the Normandy beaches. By July 1944, the 1st Battalions equipped with 76mm Shermans were moving into position for the push towards Saint-Lô and the breakout that would follow. For many German tank crews, this was the first time they would face an American tank they did not fully recognize. A Panther platoon covering a crossroads outside Le Desert spotted movement through the dust. Shermans, as expected, advancing cautiously behind infantry screens. The German commander prepared for another familiar exchange. His gunners knew the routine: wait for the Americans to get closer, strike the lead tank, break the column, and watch the rest scatter. But this time, the Americans halted at a distance the Germans considered harmless. Turrets turned, engines steadied, and then a flash. The first 76mm round slammed into the Panther's mantlet, jarring the entire crew. Shock rippled through the turret. The gunner blinked. This was not the impact he was used to. Before he could regain his sight picture, a second American round struck lower, punching into the frontal armor where previous Shermans had always failed. In that moment, confidence evaporated. German crews who had mocked American tanks now scrambled to adjust their assumptions. The Panther attempted to reposition, but the Shermans fired again, fast, coordinated, deliberate. Each shot chipped away at the belief that U.S. armor posed no threat at range. For the first time in months, German tankers felt uncertainty pressing in. The confrontation reached its peak during the armored clashes that followed the breakout from Normandy, none more defining than the engagements near Aricourt in September 1944. Here, the terrain favored fast maneuvers and clear lines of sight, and for the first time, German units committed multiple Panther formations, expecting to overwhelm what they assumed were the same old American Shermans. They were wrong. As dense morning fog lifted across the rolling fields, U.S. tank battalions under Colonel Bruce Clark advanced with a confidence the Germans had not seen before. When Panther turrets emerged through the haze, American gunners did not retreat or attempt wide flanking motions. Instead, 76mm Shermans held their ground, firing rapidly, accurately, and with a discipline honed through brutal learning. The Panthers fired back, but the Shermans' smaller silhouettes and superior turret rotation allowed them to respond faster. HVAP rounds, precious and limited, were used only when needed, punching through Panther armor that German crews had trusted too much. One by one, the German advance stalled. Their formations broke. Tanks that once dominated open ground now sat disabled, burning, or abandoned. Reports from German survivors captured the shift in tone. They described American tanks engaging earlier, firing faster, and landing hits at ranges the Germans thought safe. The belief that the Sherman was merely a light opponent evaporated at Aricourt, replaced by a sober realization. The Americans had caught up, and they were adapting faster than Germany could respond. The momentum of the armored war had shifted, and the consequences were immediate.
In the days after the Aricourt battles, reports flowed into both Allied and German headquarters, and the tone could not have been more different. American commanders praised the improved performance of the 76mm Shermans, noting how their ability to engage Panthers at previously impossible distances transformed defensive encounters into opportunities for controlled counterattacks. Units that once relied heavily on artillery or air support now showed they could stand against German armor with confidence rooted in their own firepower. Tank battalions sent detailed accounts. Faster turret response, steadier firing on the move, and improved survivability due to better tactical positioning allowed by the longer-range engagement capability. Crews who had once whispered anxiously about meeting Panthers now spoke with a measured assurance. They knew the upgraded Shermans still required tactical discipline, but they no longer approached each fight feeling outclassed from the start. For Germany, the reaction was strikingly different. After-action assessments revealed genuine concern. Panther units reported unexpected losses and misjudged engagement distances. One regimental commander noted that American tanks opened fire sooner and struck harder than anticipated, a quiet admission that the long-held advantage in gun range had eroded.
Some crews initially dismissed the new Shermans as isolated anomalies, until repeated clashes forced them to accept that the Americans were fielding a new standard. Across the front, the psychological balance tilted. German tankers began adjusting tactics. American forces pushed their advantage. As autumn turned toward winter in 1944, the ripple effects of the Sherman's upgraded firepower spread across the Western Front. German armored divisions, already strained by fuel shortages and mechanical attrition, now faced an opponent whose tanks could destroy Panthers and survive long enough to exploit breakthroughs. Commanders who once relied on superior gun range found themselves forced into closer engagements, where American reaction speed, coordinated radio communication, and combined arms support tilted outcomes sharply. U.S. logistics amplified the impact. Replacement 76mm Shermans arrived steadily, reinforcing worn battalions faster than the Germans could repair or replace their dwindling Panthers. By contrast, German crews often entered battle with reduced platoons, limited ammunition, and vehicles long overdue for maintenance. Each clash drained their ability to recover. Each loss mattered more. The improved American firepower also influenced broader strategy. Armor units were now more willing to hold ground against counterattacks, enabling infantry advances to proceed with fewer delays. The 76mm gun gave U.S. officers the confidence to maneuver aggressively, knowing their tanks could contest critical crossroads and defend against armored thrusts without waiting for air or artillery intervention. German intelligence summaries from late 1944 acknowledged the shift. References to new American long-barreled tanks appeared repeatedly, along with warnings that Allied armored strength was increasing faster than expected. What had begun as scattered encounters had become a consistent pattern and a growing threat that Germany lacked the resources to reverse. This change in battlefield dynamics would shape the final months of the war. The story of the 76mm Sherman's arrival is not the tale of a perfect machine suddenly changing the course of a war. It is the story of adaptation, of soldiers learning, engineers responding, commanders adjusting, and an army evolving under the weight of real losses. The Sherman would never match the Panther in raw armor or the Tiger in sheer presence, but the upgraded gun gave American crews what they needed most, a fighting chance when the moment demanded courage instead of retreat. For German tankers, the shift forced a quiet reckoning. The battlefield they once understood, a battlefield where Shermans burned easily and American armor kept its distance, was gone. In its place stood an opponent willing to meet them head-on, supported by an industrial machine capable of replacing what it lost and improving what it deployed. Confidence faded into caution, and caution into doubt. In a broader sense, the introduction of the 76mm Sherman illustrated a truth that defined the entire war. Technological superiority mattered, but adaptation mattered more. The United States did not win because of a single weapon or breakthrough. It won because it could learn quickly, adjust rapidly, and support its soldiers with the tools they needed to survive and succeed. And for the crews who climbed into those steel hulls, who faced the unknown each time they heard the grind of German tracks in the distance, the 76mm upgrade was more than a technical improvement. It was a reassurance that their nation had listened, that their experiences had shaped the machines they fought in, that they were no longer charging into battle with a weapon outmatched before the first shot was fired. History remembers the tanks, but the story belongs to the men who trusted them.